It tells us what we ought to pursue, and integrity is our character. It determines whether we can actually be trusted to pursue it. Integrity is an admirable virtue, a noble idea to be actively pursued by all of us. Very often used as a compliment to describe a person, sometimes a professional person, who has very high moral principles, whose actions are consistent with his beliefs and principles, who would not compromise his principles for personal gains, who would act fairly and with honesty, and who would not do anything contrary to his conscience, even if it means that it would be detrimental to his own interest. Integrity is, in this admirable and noble sense, a desired goal for all of us to pursue. Imagine a world where every voice is heard, every person is valued, every wrong is made right. That would be not just a distant dream. We can materialize that dream if we all take collective responsibility. Justice should not be the job of courts alone. It must be a duty, responsibility for each of us. Justice lives in the choices we make, the courage we show, and the silence we refuse to keep. When we see injustice and turn away, we allow injustice to grow. But when we speak, act, and stand together, we become the force that bends towards fairness. Let us not wait for change, let us be the change. Justice begins with you, me, all of us. Justice is often defined as fairness under the law, but it is much more than that. It's a moral compass, as I said, that guides our society. True justice means equal opportunity, equal protection, and equal respect, regardless of race, religion, color, gender, wealth, or status. It demands that we listen before we judge and that we act with empathy as well as with reason. Laws can be written, but justice must be experienced, it must be lived. It is measured not by the words in our legal codes, but with the dignity we afford to every human being. If we want a just society, we must practice justice in our daily lives, in our workplaces, in our schools, in our homes. Today we gather here today not just to celebrate the idea, but to honor a principle, and that defines our humanity. Justice is the promise that no one is above the law and no one is beneath its protection. It is the bridge between ideas and our reality. In honoring justice, we know the countless individuals, known and unknown, who have stood up for what is right, often at great personal cost. Let this moment remind us that justice is not a gift we receive, but a legacy we must protect. Now, in the light of Islam and Islamic principles, Quran and Sunnah, justice and integrity needs to be searched for. And it's a very vast area. Quran and Sunnah is such a vast area where integrity and justice is almost everywhere. In every surah, there are these passages, there are these verses, some of which my learned junior friends have collated. And, I'm tempted to recite some of them, but my Arabic is not so good. And the English that I have learned, I will be able to maybe say one or two things about it. But it's so vast a subject that this 5 or 10 minutes is, I'm sure, not enough for anybody to make a discourse on. I would only maybe one or two quotes from the Holy Quran and its translation. This is from Surah Nisa, Ayat 58, and I read the translation. Indeed, Allah commands you to render trusts to whom they are due, and when you judge between people, to judge with justice. Now, judging with justice, there are more able minds than me to develop on, and my next panelist will, I'm sure, deliberate on this. But I will not labor your minds too much. Just one or two things I will mention. Just like integrity and justice, they seem very simple words, but in their application to your daily lives, how you conduct yourself, it's needs some exercise of your mind. Now, when we talk about justice, we often focus on the law, on punishing criminals and resolving disputes. But there's another kind of justice that's just as important. It's more so, I'm talking about economic justice. Economic justice is about fairness in how we create, distribute, and consume wealth and resources. It's about ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to live a dignified life, to provide for their families, to pursue their dreams. Why does this matter? Because without economic justice, other forms of justice ring hollow. What good is the right to vote if you are too busy working 3 jobs to make it to the polls? How can you pursue an education if you can't afford books? How can you speak truth to power if you are afraid of losing your job? The sad truth is that we are falling short on economic justice. The gap between rich and poor is growing wider, as everyone will admit and acknowledge. And the last thing that I would wrap up this small discourse is, there are different perspectives on justice, from personal responsibilities to systemic change. They remind us that justice is not an abstract concept, but something that we create through our daily actions and collective efforts. Whether you are addressing a small community group or a large audience, these speeches provide a starting point for inspiring others to work towards a fairer, more just world. And the last image that I would like to convey, if you would, please imagine a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves. The lighthouse doesn't move, it doesn't bend, it simply shines, guiding ships to safety. That is what integrity does for our lives. It keeps us steady, visible, and trustworthy. No matter how fierce the storm, let us be that lighthouse. Thank you, gentlemen, for having the patience to listen to me. I hope it was worth your while. Thank you very much.